What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to another Cryptid Saturday, and in today's Cryptid Saturday, we are going to go over some cryptids of Indiana. So that seems to have like some really cool cryptids. Like I've read some, like just skimming the article, there's giant snakes, things like that. So we'll see if there's another click on the Bigfoot counter. My guess would probably be yes, although some of these articles I'm noticing are actually tending to avoid the Bigfoot arguments. So, or, content because everybody knows about Bigfoot. But yeah, who knows? Let's see what we can get into. I always just kind of like to, just go over these myself or with you guys for the first time so I can react to them more realistically. Uh, that being said, though, guys, before we get into that video, please remember to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, follow me on all of my social medias, which will be at the end of the video, as well as um, drop some comments down below. Have you guys ever seen any of these cryptids? Do you guys live in Indiana and know or have heard these stories before? And if you guys would like to, I would really appreciate it. So a lot of times there's a lot of good descriptions, but not necessarily great pictures. So if you guys could draw up some fan art and send it to me, that would be awesome. You can send it to me on my Instagram, and I'll post it on my Instagram. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get into this video. So like I always like to say, guys, I don't own the rights to these articles. I simply use them to push forth information. This particular article comes from washtimesherald.com. Yep, that's the name. Please go over there and show them some love, or just, stick around and we'll go through all this together. So the Cryptids of Indiana. From monstrous turtles to ancient trolls, creepy creatures call Hoosier State home. Have you ever seen a creature you can't explain? Something that shouldn't exist but made your blood run cold and every hair on your body stand straight up. Pretty much what I do every Saturday. You're not alone. Long before and ever since the first European settlers set foot in Indiana, there have been reports of strange encounters with beasties in the state's lakes and forests. These creatures are known as cryptids, or animals whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated. And these things range from like the crazy end of the spectrum to this is just a regular animal that shouldn't be here end of the spectrum. So there's a pretty big gap in between those two things. Bigfoot in the Pacific Northwest, the monster of Scotland's Loch Ness, and the chupacabra of the southern United States and Central America are among the globe's most famous cryptids. The Hoosier State's cryptid creatures may not be as well known as their headline-grabbing cousins, but the stories surrounding them are just as terrifying. Here's a spine-tingling look at the cryptids of Indiana. Wildmen. While most Bigfoot reports come out of the country's northwest corner, Indiana isn't immune from stories of encounters with large, hairy humanoid creatures. A December 30th, 1839 article in a Pennsylvania newspaper tells of a 4 foot tall wild child covered in light brown hair running among the hills of Michigan City, Indiana. Another wild child was sought by a posse of 300 in June of 1860 in Carroll County, and in 1937 an animal described as a monster hairy ape, giant sloth, and a cross between a sloth and ape was believed to be stalking the Boonville area. Modern-day reports persist, especially in the areas near Crossley State Fish and Wildlife Area, where visitors to the woods report seeing the Crossley Monster, an 8-foot-tall, hairy, bipedal creature whose hideous howls will stop you in your tracks. Okay, so I am pretty sure this is just a feral person. Like that's what makes sense to me on this one. Like the last example of like a cross between a giant sloth and an ape doesn't really make sense. I mean, I think those guys were probably seeing a bear because giant sloths did exist. I'm not saying they didn't, and bears definitely exist down there, but they're probably just seeing kind of a messed up bear. Um, but hey, other than that, though, I'd say like probably wild people. But it'd be really cool if it wasn't. Like if it's just a actual wild person. Mud mermaids. Indiana is without an oceanic coastline, making it quite a stretch that Hoosiers would see a mermaid, the beautiful or hideous, depending on the teller of the tale, half human, half fish cryptid of the sea. But in 1894, two Ohio newspapers reported sightings of the creature on the Ohio River near Vevey, Indiana. These mud mermaids had apparently taken up residence on a sandbar in the river. According to the Cincinnati Enquirer, the creatures were purported to be about 5 feet in length, with a yellowish color, and the extremities resembled hands, and are webbed and furnished with sharp claws. The mermaids were devoid of hair, but had ears that were sharp, pointed, and stand up like those of a dog. I don't know what that could be, to be honest with you. Um, I don't know of anything in Indiana that lives in the water that actually makes sense with. Alligators don't go up that far. I actually may be at a loss with this one, guys. Probably some type of fish that might sort of match that description, but I can't really think of any in Indiana, but I'm not very familiar with what's in Indiana. So, I don't know. Honestly, they finally I mean, something's managed to stump me during this whole series, and this is one of them. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Mashikinabak? Mashikinabek? Maybe? Apparently, Indiana has a Loch Ness monster of its own, with reports dating far back in the traditions of the Native Americans that inhabited the lands near Rochester. An August 1838 article in the Langsport Telegraph described a monster known to the Potawatomi, I'm sorry, I'm butchering names today, as the Mashikinabek in Lake Manitou. That was estimated to be 60 feet long, with a noggin shaped like a cow's head, about 3 feet across, and a dingy color with bright yellow spots. There was apparently a well-known tradition of the Indians respecting the monster in Devil's Lake. I don't know. That one's hard to say. I mean, the Native American folklore is pretty strong there, apparently. So I would definitely be inclined to believe that there is something, or they've seen something. It's hard to say with water things. It's probably not anything like a reptile, because like there just weren't around at the time that that lake was probably formed. But I don't know, man. Probably some big fish could potentially be the culprit there, or maybe just like everybody seeing just different parts. Like lots of fish have spots. Some sturgeon have spots. Some gar have spots. So I mean, it wouldn't be impossible for them to be there. But yeah. So I mean, you just never know. The Beast of Busco. Oscar is definitely the most famous of Indiana's cryptids. The Beast of Busco is said to be a giant turtle with a shell as big as a dining room table that inhabits a lake near Churubusco, Indiana. First spotted by the owner in 1898, Oscar's popularity really picked up steam when it was spotted by two fishermen in 1948. His discovery led to an all-out effort to capture the monster, but several attempts, including draining most of the lake, came up empty-handed. The town, however, has turned the story into tourism, dubbing itself Turtletown, USA, and celebrating its cryptid each year with the Turtle Days Festival. I think Oscar may have just been a big snapping turtle. That's my only guess. It could also have just been like mistaken identity. That's entirely possible, but it does make sense because when you get like even when they drain the lake, what turtles will do is they'll just bury into the mud. But apparently he was pretty big. I mean, shell as big as a dining room table. There's definitely no modern reports of any turtle getting that big, or at least in the U.S., with the exception of alligator snapping turtles. Regular snappers just don't get that big. So, I don't know. Maybe it was a giant turtle. Maybe it wasn't. Or maybe they just saw a turtle that they thought was big. Uh, but yeah, who knows? I guess we'll just have to kind of check that out and let me know what you guys think. Green clawed monster. In 1955, two women swimming in the Ohio River near Evansville reported a terrifying incident involving an unknown creature. One of them was floating on a raft when a green, hairy, clawed hand grabbed her leg, pulling her underwater. She escaped, but a green handprint reportedly remained on her leg for days. The fact that this incident occurred shortly after the release of the creature from the Black Lagoon is purely coincidence. I don't think that's so much coincidence. I think that was somebody messing around with like paint on their hands or something, or that had gotten into like some seaweed, and they just scared the living crap out of that woman. I That is my opinion. I don't know if it's true or not, but that would be my best guess. Is like someone just scared that poor woman to death. But I mean, and in 1955, especially hey, the Creature of the Black Lagoon just came out. Everybody's like, oh, there could be monsters in the water, and then that poor woman just got literally given a heart attack. I almost feel bad for her. Mill Race Monster. Two reports of this cryptid came in on the same day. November 1st, 1974, four women said they encountered a green, hairy, and large monster in the park about 3 p.m. At 11:45 p.m., two other women reported a similar beast jumped on the hood of their car, leaving scratch marks in the paint. Jumped up on the car. I would be willing. like almost inclined to say that maybe they saw like some kind of a cat. Maybe a cat that and like got paint on it somehow. I don't know. That'd be my best guess, but that's kind of a stretch. Maybe they did see something crazy. Monster snake. Don't go near the graveyard west of Oxford, Indiana. A monstrous snake, 15 feet long and as large in circumference as a good-sized stovepipe, with eyes of fire, adorned with horns underneath, fully 10 inches long, lurks among the graves. According to a September 1889 report in the Lafayette Courier, the snake was said to feed on the corpses in the cemetery. I'm assuming there's not just a giant snake or there was a giant snake that we don't know about, which is not entirely impossible. This one, I think, is more of one of those stories that you tell to children to make them not go into the graveyard at night. We do come across a few of those, and I think this in particular is one of those. But it could be a giant snake, but there's no snakes in North America that get 10 feet long. There's just not, guys. No, let me rephrase the statement. Sorry. There's no natural snakes here that get 10 feet long. There are definitely snakes that aren't supposed to be here that can get way longer than 10 feet, but that's, a whole other issue that they're dealing with down in Florida. No Hoosier cryptid list would be complete without Madison County's own mysterious critters. Tales of these tiny troll-like creatures date far back into Native American folklore. The local varieties, standing 2 to 3 feet tall, with rounded white faces and dull blonde hair, are said to inhabit Mounds State Park in the area near the White River. With magical powers and a penchant for playing tricks, the little wild men of the forest were believed to be mostly peaceful and even participated in trade with the local indigenous communities. On Sunday at 10 a.m., the park will host Pukwudgie exploration. Just remember to bring peanut butter cookies to lure the creatures out. Okay, so if the Native Americans traded with them, my running assumption would be that they were probably just small people. Like I said, everywhere has had, like most places that we have found, like especially on like islands or isolated areas, have had shorter people, like pygmies and midgets, or not midgets, sorry, that's a bad word, but like shorter people, like dwarfism was a thing. And yeah, so maybe the Native Americans were trading with a tribe of pygmies, and the Pukwudgie tale came from like their shamans. That would be really interesting. And I don't think there's any actual evidence of pygmy tribes in the United States. It doesn't make sense that there couldn't be. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. There you have it, guys. There goes some Cryptids of Indiana. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found some of like the little stories and everything kind of interesting, because I know I do. It's really fun to learn about these things and just see what kind of folklore it is. It's also kind of a fun mind experiment for me just to kind of say this is what it may be. But to be honest, most of these things could just potentially be real. But you know what? I'll never know, mostly because I wasn't there when they were seen. And yeah, who knows? I can be wrong. I'm just a guy who likes to read these articles and pass along information. All that being said, though, guys, please remember at the end of this video to go ahead and hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, follow me on all my social medias, hit that notification bell, drop those comments down below, and send me any of those pictures you decide you wanted to draw up for me. And I will see you guys next Saturday on Cryptid Saturdays.